cloud and turn on the transcript. Cool. So, welcome. Thank you all for taking the time on a Friday, the last Friday of the quarter, uh, to do some professional development related to syllabus enhancement and course design. Hey, Kelly, how you doing? Um, We have our session goal here to transform your course syllabus into a comprehensive, inclusive, and AI enhanced document that clearly communicates expectations, promotes equity, and integrates responsible AI use policies. That's a tall glass of water. But we're going to see what we can do using AI to enhance our syllabi. And I'm sure there's going to be some stuff that we pick and choose for what we think will be the best way to do that. Um, but that's going to be our main goal. Our outcomes here, let me go ahead and zoom this in here so that we can all see very nicely. By the end, we want to generate inclusive language and diverse perspectives for comprehensive syllabus development. We would also like to create AI enhanced syllabus sections that improve accessibility and student engagement. This module is 4 and it's session 2. So you can find it under here, 4.2. I'll go ahead and put it into the chat for the people who are in here. And then we want to integrate your learning outcomes and AI policies into a cohesive course framework. So it's kind of picking up where we left off last week. We were looking at outcomes. Consider accessibility improvements and inclusivity enhancements throughout your syllabus, and then we'll share syllabus innovations and collaborate on best practices for inclusive course design. So, what we need this week, access to your favorite chatbot, your current course syllabus, if you have your revised learning outcomes from 4.1, and if you have your AI use policy from 2.2. You can have those handy as we go through and we'll go through the explore, but you can use that on your own when you go through the apply section. Head on to the next page here where we're going to look at this week in AI. So if anybody has a AI tool feature or anything related to policy, feel free to put it into the chat or hop off mute to share while y'all think
Hey
about
Ronald,
that. Oh yeah, go ahead.
um,
Kelly.
when I click on 4.2, it says it's acting like it's locked. Like I'm not seeing what you see.
Mm. I wonder if it is
Eh,
because the um I think everything is sequential, so you might need to
Uh-huh.
do 4.1 first.
I
The
got you. I can't even see that page.
oh, okay. Well, we'll just follow along
Yeah,
on
yeah,
the
yeah.
screen for now, and then once you submit 4.1's
Hmm.
apply, then you should have yeah, the apply to the reflect. You should have access to this.
Okay.
So, any new news or anything anyone would like to share this week in AI? I was going to say that I'll do a quick self plug here. We just released the episode 59 of Simon Says Educate, where we go over the AI Essentials course. Joni Gutierrez and I put together that course for the Washington State Board of Community and Technical Colleges. Um, so I'm going to drop this into the chat if y'all are looking for some nice weekend listening. We're talking about this course here, the AI Essentials in Education, Tools, Ethics, and Collaboration. There's a little sneak peek of what that is. It's a tight 5 hour just crash course on what AI is, some of the ethical concerns, how to use it, and how to kind of rethink about the work that you do with, this world where AI exists and how that kind of reshapes work. And then the last part is navigating change. So it goes into about digital adaptability and how, this is a big shift in a lot of industries and in education, and how can we kind of stay up with the times when so much is changing. So, um, some tips there on some digital adaptability. To access this course, you would just go through the state SBCTC micro credentials. They have a website that uh, you can sign up, and I think there's a couple quizzes in there for each module. But it's we go in a lot more detail into the applied AI part in here. Um, if you just need, some broad information about AI and kind of the future of education as we see it, I highly recommend the AI Essentials. I see in the chat, Jeff says Anthropic has moved away from agents and adopted an architecture using expert knowledge scripts. Oh, the YouTube video. Did you watch this one, Jeff?
It's worth a watch. As as the world, literally thousands of people and company are developing agents and expecting to, hit the pay dirt, the gold rush. Anthropic pops out and says, you don't need any of that. Just use your LLM and this architecture where we have curated expert knowledge scripts, and
Mm.
this one agent, Claude, um, can do everything that yours can do. And since people can contribute to these expert knowledge scripts, um, it'll only become better.
Ooh,
They're tearing at the
okay.
fabric a little.
Interesting. A different approach. I like it. And it's 1621, so it's not too long. So about this length of a TED Talk. Yeah, I'm going to add this to uh thing that I want to watch later. Thank you for sharing that, Jeff. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on, just because I always feel like I'm up against time in here. Um, let's talk about clear communication and accessibility. Um, yeah, I'll I'll stick around for a couple minutes after Kelly, if you need some assistance with that. Okay, so when we're thinking about our syllabi, we want to think less about a contract that you have with your student and more of a um, document to help increase the sense of belonging with your students in the class. And a couple ways that you can do that is through this clear communication and accessibility, including student-centered language, writing policies, and expectations from the student perspective. So taking off the teacher hat, I know that we have our way that we want our classes to run, and there's room for that in the syllabi. But also thinking about if I was a student taking this course, and usually the syllabus is the first thing that the students come into contact with. Um, how would I want to read this? How would I know that this syllabus this course is for me? And the syllabus is one of those documents that is kind of that first taste into the class. And so if you write the policies and expectations from the student perspective, then it's I feel the students are going to feel more like they belong into the class. You can have an inclusive tone, creating welcoming language that supports diverse learners. Right? We have learners from all over in our courses, and so trying to find a way to make everyone feel welcome. It's not easy, and so that's why this we're gonna use AI to kind of help us along here, and maybe uh, catch some of the blind spots that we might have, from our perspective. Some accessibility features, ensuring readability and accommodations for different needs. Our campus uses simple syllabus, and one of the reasons that we chose simple syllabus is for consistent readability across syllabi from different courses, and then making sure that everything is WCAG compliant. That's one of the things that we uh, made sure that service has. And uh, I'm sure any instructor in here that's used simple syllabus, where you'll try to go down and submit your syllabi, and then it'll say something's missing, or your table doesn't have a header, or there's a multitude of things that could be improved. And what I like about simple is that it'll tell you where you need to improve it. But for this one, this is more like thinking about how everything is put together, um, to make it more accessible. The cultural responsiveness, acknowledging diverse backgrounds and learning approaches. It's kind of similar here to the adding the welcoming language for diverse learners. What we can do with AI to help us in this process is we can use AI to help us improve the clarity and readability, especially on complex policies. If you have policies with a lot of jargon in there, maybe breaking that down a little bit so that it's accessible for everyone. Generating multiple explanation formats for different learning styles. This kind of hits at universal design for learning. Um, I mean, there's, a certain amount that you can put in there. You don't want to overdo it, but we'll look at some example when we run the demo and see, what we feel is the most important to keep in, and then what is a little bit extra. Creating inclusive examples that reflect student diversity. This one, I don't know if it's really has a lot of room in the syllabus document. I don't usually run into examples in the document, but if you have it as something when you're going over your syllabi in the class. So if create kind of a day one document while you're going over your syllabi, then you can talk about some inclusive examples, and developing accessible language for technical and disciplinary content. So that's what I was talking about up here, the readability. So for that one, before we go on to the next one, I'm curious if anybody wants to talk to it. Before AI, we still had to have these kind of considerations. So, what do you all think about, like, what goes through your mind when you're creating a syllabus, and do you take these things into consideration? And if you do, what does it look like on the actual syllabus? Go ahead, Jeff.
So uh, it ended up being really, really wordy.
Mm.
And as a result, my students are not going to read that.
Mm.
It wasn't that helpful. Clarity and all that great. Trying to be more inclusive. Like I said, it got really, really wordy.
Okay. There's definitely a balance, because yeah, you're right. I'm looking at including examples. Maybe there's things that you can add that are kind of go with the syllabus, but the actual syllabus, um, focusing on the main important information that they need to focus on in the class. Anybody else? Did
I
anybody else
would
have
say, I would
yeah, go ahead, Ron.
say, um, trying to keep it simple
Mhm.
and keeping it, as Jeff said, at a point word wise that the students understand. There's no misconception. I remember this was years ago. You get some students who will read through the syllabus and go, try to pick it apart, find the loopholes. And I got really good at plugging those loopholes. I got really good at plugging the loopholes. Um, the thing is if they don't understand it, it's like any policy. You can write a policy, but if the users don't understand it, we got a problem.
Right.
And the learning styles is important. I include that in my syllabus because I understand that people learn differently.
Sure.
And I'm not as hard line as I used to be, but I'm willing to make adjustments for all to make sure that everybody is equal to the
Yeah.
best of my ability. You know what I mean? If I
Yeah,
give
sure.
somebody a break, I give them all a break. That's just the way,
Nice.
the way it is. I did have an issue this quarter though when I had to import curriculum from a third party vendor and I had already built the course in Canvas. Then they
Hmm.
came in and then we had to revamp it. I lost
Oh.
an assignment and did not catch it until the week I was supposed to assign it. And the students were like, "We were wondering what you were talking about this project." And I was like, "Oh, crud." So
Oh.
you know what I did is I told them it was a benefit to them to do it, but
Uh-huh.
that I would give it to them as extra credit if they completed it, and they all did it. Everybody did
Nice.
it. So I still submitted it. I still posted it, but I posted it like right before I had to assign it.
Okay.
So yeah.
That's sometimes that happens. You just gotta kind of go with the flow, and I think that's a good way to handle it.
And I know
And
too, I
props to your students who found that. They're like, where's
uh
this at?
yeah, they're like, "What are you talking?" Because I started talking about. I always set them up for the next week.
Okay.
So I write notes. Basically their notes is my agenda, but I give them a copy every week.
Hmm.
And at the bottom it says for next week we will be doing whatever we're doing, and that's when they
Hmm.
go, "Wait a minute!" But nobody said anything to me right away. Somebody emailed me and goes, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Well,
Oh,
it's
okay.
it's in Canvas," and they're like, "No, it's not." And I looked and it wasn't
Mm,
there. It was when we merged the course it got removed, and I did not catch it. I missed it. It was my fault.
yeah.
But
Happens to the best of us.
I was thinking of first quarter students, brand new students, and I don't teach that class anymore for the NOS program. Catherine Morris teaches it. Well, she's been teaching it for a long time. But the language, developing accessible language for technical or disciplinary content, when you're in IT, you cannot assume that people understand any terms.
Hmm.
You can't assume it because they don't. And I'm guilty. I'm still guilty of it. Where I'll bring
Yeah.
something up and they'll go, "What are you talking about?" And I would assume they knew it. Being
The
new
curse of
students,
knowledge.
yes, yes.
Hmm.
So that's a tough one still for me today. I'm lucky though. I get third and fourth, fifth quarter students. So you
Okay.
know,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I hear clarity, making sure your syllabus is clear for your students, and yeah, that's thank you for sharing. I'm going to move on to the policy now, where you were talking about policy as well, policy integration and coherence. There's lots of different policies, and they're all different depending on the program and all the way down to the course level. But what's something that we have been trying to encourage at our college is the AI use guidelines, and it's something that we covered in module 2 when we were talking about AI policies. And I'm going to use an example syllabus today that has those AI tags of the green means good to go, use AI. Um, how you see fit, as long as you're using it in a responsible way. The yellow would be, caution. Make sure, actually, here, I'll bring them up here so we can have something to look at as we talk. Uh, for quick access, if you ever go to our LibGuide, um, we have our TLC LibGuide here with in the syllabus tab has these here, uh, open for anybody to grab and use. There's also the individual ones here. So this would be an example of something maybe you'll put at the in the syllabus, and then these would be something you might put at the top of the assignments in your course, just to let students know AI usage, uh, the guidelines for AI use. Academic integrity framework, connecting the AI policies to broader honesty expectations. So maybe including some language about why we're using AI, and for the students that aren't familiar with what is responsible use and what isn't responsible use, um, including that type of statement of, don't use it to do your assignments. If you want to help to brainstorm some ideas or, get some first drafts, but, you know, pasting a assignment in. And actually, now we were talking about browsers, and, Comet browser I've heard can go in, you can give it the Canvas credentials, and it can go in and do your assignments for you and do the quizzes. Uh, saying that that's not allowed in the course is probably a good way to proactively prevent that. Um, and then, if there is a issue later on, then you can say, I said something about this in the syllabus about using agentic browsing and how that goes against the um, school's policy on privacy and FERPA and all that kind of stuff. So, Kat, I see you have a hand.
Yeah, I had a couple things. Question
Go
was,
ahead.
um, so you say, okay, AI is good. We want to use it ethically, and you create these guidelines. You explain that you have a little lesson on them, what's ethical, what's not ethical, um, and uh, come to find out somebody uses AI in a way that was not ethical, and you're in the situation, well, you encouraged us to use it, or you said I could because they just recall that you can use AI part, but not the ethical side of things, nor did they maybe understand fully what the ethical side of things were, what that was, and if they were actually using it ethically or not. So let's just say I was very strict and I said don't use it, and I assume that they use it in a hygienic sense, and I tell them, hey, you've used it in a hygienic sense, and you're going to receive a 0 on this, and they're yelling and screaming and saying, why would you do that? All this other stuff, um, and fighting with the grade aspect of it. Is
Mhm.
that the way we want to go, or is it the way more of a kind reminder, gentle reminder, as these are not ways that we want to use it? Um, you know what I mean?
For me, I always try to show, like, I try to say that uh, if you're going to use it, it's going to hurt your learning, right? You're here to learn how to do this outcome. I'm here to reach these outcomes in these courses. And if I'm using agentic AI to do all the work for me, then that's not real. I'm not really doing the work. I'm having a bot essentially do the work for me. And so I don't know, I would probably give them an analogy of like, I'm not gonna go to the gym and turn on the running machine and just stand there and watch the running machine like run. Like in order to learn, in order to better myself, I need to actually get on there and do the work. Um, so, including some sort of language that gets that across. Your issue is with it not being clear, or maybe your students having
Well,
selective listening or reading when they go through?
not necessarily. It's like you're supposed to take a stance, typically saying, well, you may use AI to this extent, right? And you have to
Mhm.
paint a picture of what that extent is. And during the quarter, let's say AI advances in certain ways, or there's certain tools that come out that they become aware of or that they decide to utilize in their way. Like I don't know exactly what I couldn't
Well,
even
I
give you an
mean,
example.
Comet is a good example because that came out during the quarter, right? Like
Right.
the Perplexity released it in October or early November, and so I guess you wouldn't have that unless you were, had the foresight and were thinking about a agents in that sense. Um, like you wouldn't be able to put that like specifically before uh it came out
Hmm.
unless, like I said, you're kind of like tapped in, and I know in your industry maybe you're a little bit more about the capabilities of some of these AIs, but including like that's what I'm saying about the integrity framework of um saying that if you're going to use AI, then using it to help your learning. And so I think that hopefully the students can recognize what's going to help them and what's not going to help them. But then also, as you're going through and you're going, you have your assignments and you reach week 8 and you just read that Comet has the browser and you think maybe some of your students are going to use it, just reiterating it and saying, do you remember in the syllabus where I said you want to use it to support your learning, not to supplant it? And then, you know, keeping the conversation going throughout the quarter.
Right. Right.
So, I don't know. That's one way. But continuing on here, learning outcome alignment, ensuring all syllabus elements support the course objectives. We talked about alignment last week. Just making sure that what's going on in your syllabus is aligned to um, what you're hoping to have your students accomplish in the course. Institutional compliance, meeting campus requirements while maintaining the course identity. Um, this is one of the reasons I really like simple syllabus because we have a certain amount of things that have to go into everybody's syllabus across the campus, but then also making sure that you make the syllabus is there for your course, and for your students to get information about your course. Some integration strategies here. Thanks, Rachel. Connecting learning outcomes to assignments and assessments. That's a whole thing. We did a whole course on that, but the alignment is nice for the students to see that transparency of, I'm doing this because it's going to reach this, and then that's, up the line. Aligning AI policies with specific course activities. So, this is where I don't know if necessarily it belongs in the syllabus. Um, maybe you could have an assignment, and if you want to add like a little tag to it, I like to use emojis. The what do we have here? I don't know if you can see. I don't know where my emojis are. Oh, it's coming up in a different window. I don't know if y'all can see this. Can you guys see these emojis on my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So thank you. Thank you for the thumbs. Um, if you have those AI use tags there, and then after each of the assignments, okay, I'm gonna put a green circle or uh yellow triangle. Have a yellow triangle? I don't have a yellow triangle. So probably yellow circle or I know they got a stop sign in here, right? This is the stop. Don't use AI for this. Um, but also making sure, you have a little legend in there that says, this is what this means. Otherwise, it's just going to be confusing. Why do some of these assignments have these different colors on them? But a good talking point for as you're going through your syllabus, and if your students are confused, you can tell them. Creating coherent progression from course goals to daily activities. That's, kind of standard stuff. And then balancing comprehensive information with usability. Um, Definitely important to show how to use it. Did I see a hand?
Yeah,
Kat?
I had a
Yeah, go
really
ahead.
quick other question. It's like part two
Sure.
of my first of another of when I was initially asking you
Oh,
something else.
yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
With Canvas, I can also encounter a lot of issues that along the way in the quarter that kind of get revealed to me from a perspective of a student. So kind of where I may have my perspective as a faculty that I'm implementing something in a certain way to make it appear this way or to meet guidelines or meet compliance rules and things like
Mhm.
that. I create an assignment and Canvas has its limitations, of course, all the time. So you got to create it in a very creative way to be
I
able
know
to
all
kind
about
of
that.
meet all of those goals, right? Um, and and there's that other aspect where you're trying to still have the students maybe understand, okay, you have to complete these items first before we go moving on to the other ones. So they're not just jumping around like, insanely and stuff like that. And so you
Mhm.
you implement this thing where it's like, okay, complete this module, then you go to this module, then you go to this module. And then on the other hand of that, uh Canvas will do it in a certain way or make you mark a complete module, for example, and I don't know if this is accurate anymore, but making mark a complete module as having to complete a complete module first before going on to the second and so forth. And then on the
Mhm.
same token, you know, uh, you realize, oh my gosh, I'm not being inclusive because as I'm going through lessons, they're not able to, they can only see my screen. They're not able to see on their end what we're doing or
Yeah.
be able to kind of participate in it the same
Yeah.
way. You know what I mean? Until
You're
I grade
exactly
things.
explaining what happened to Kelly in in this
Oh,
in
really?
this one. Yeah. You came in after he was like, Ronald, I can't access this. And so I'm thinking about I'm gonna do a little restructuring here of this applied AI. I have it in there for, I want to make sure that, everybody doesn't go too far ahead. But you're right. It's another one where there's like a fine line. Like
Well,
maybe
it's like you
maybe
got to like
I'll
enhance that. They're like, well, why did you do that? Like they think that they're being punished in a certain way. You know what I mean? There's that
yeah, right,
aspect,
right,
and
right.
it's huge. So one of the first things I tell them about Canvas in general is number one, if it looks a certain way and you're perceiving it a certain way, I need you to let me know and communicate with me. Because a lot of
Yeah.
times we can say something and then it behaves differently, not as intended. So
Yeah.
and kind of understanding that the digital aspect of having that a digital classroom, right? So
Hmm.
I make it very clear as far as my expectation goes with Canvas. If there's something and there's always going to every single quarter, no matter how many times I improve it, there's always going to be something that comes up during the quarter where I say something and it's not perceived in that way, or it's not there,
Mm,
or if it's not popping up as intended. So
yes.
and then on other assignments, I'll have them kind of work with me on them, like Kahoot, other
Oh
things.
yeah. Oh,
But yeah,
yeah,
so
yeah.
I just
That's
wanted to throw that out there. Thank you.
well, I think Kelly, I see your hand, and I'll you can talk in a minute, but I just wanted to say that I think that's great that you have that kind of rapport with your students where they feel comfortable letting you know. if there is something that is a barrier to them. Like if, like let's say, one of your students is overwhelmed and they didn't have time to go through the first part of the module, but you're on to the next part of the module and uh, now they can't access it. I think that there was some issues with when I first made this course, and the way that the modules are put together. Like I said, I'm gonna do a little restructuring, so when y'all come back after the break, hopefully it'll be a little bit more accessible. Kelly, did you want to add anything
No, I
onto that?
appreciate that. What I tell my students, and I used to be a deadline person, got to have it done by this date. And then you couldn't move forward until you completed the previous module, right? Or the previous lesson, whatever it was. But then when COVID hit, that completely changed like the whole landscape because I have students now, we're more flexible. So I have students that work full time.
Mm,
So I said, okay, look, you guys need to get this done by the end of the quarter. But if you're getting behind more than a week, you and I are
mm,
meeting, right?
mm,
So I started doing that. And then I had students say, well, I prefer having due dates because I know when I got to get it done. So then I went back and said, okay, I'm going to do both. I'm going to give you due dates, but this is to get done by the end of the quarter comfortably. If you follow
mm,
these, you will be done by the end of the quarter with all the assignments comfortably.
mm,
And for those who can't do that because you're working and you're having to do your work at night or on the weekends, you can turn it in because I don't deduct points for late work. And that helped me a lot. That really helped me a lot. And
yeah.
this quarter, when I imported that curriculum in, I thought it brought the due dates over, right? It didn't. And I heard,
Mm,
what was I can't say surprising to me, but I didn't see it coming. A lot of my ex-military students were like, Kelly, could we have the due dates, please?
yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm like, sure.
Sure.
I didn't even know they were missing. Like I just had a bad quarter with that
Mm,
because it's a
the
brand new,
import.
everything's new because they changed the certification. So
Oh,
everything
yeah,
is new.
right.
So I
Oh,
went from 5 modules to 8 and they expanded on it quite a bit, which is great for the students. But when it got integrated, I didn't double check those things and it
wow.
got me. It got me this quarter. It's not going to get
I
me
mean,
next quarter. I learned from it.
there you go. There you go. Oh, here we go. Is it Landy? I leave everything open up all semester, no late penalties. Hmm. You're not worried about some students going to come to the end and maybe do something ahead of the way that you have it planned?
They try and it's fine. I grade them, and so they get one redo. And so often the ones who work too far ahead don't do any of the reading and they get Fs.
There you go. You gotta learn the hard way.
Yeah, it's nothing. You can't Google the answers, so you can't fake it. You have to do the reading and learn the stuff.
Okay, nice. I'm interested in the type of assessments that you create. Let's keep moving on just for time here. So student engagement and support. I'm just going to go over this pretty quickly. Expectation, clarity, helping students understand what success looks like. This, once again, I don't know if there's enough room in the syllabus. We don't want too long of syllabus, but including this with your assignments, examples always help. Um, Resource accessibility, providing a clear pathway to academic support. That's something that we make sure we include in the simple syllabi that go to everyone is the campus resources at the bottom. Communication channels, establishing effective instructor-student interaction. I think that's one of the required things in simple syllabus is your office hours and contact information. Flexibility and accommodation, building in support for diverse student needs. I think hopefully everybody tries to do that, and it sounds like you all are doing it based on our conversations here. Flexibility, because sometimes life hits different people in different ways at different times. So, um, flexibility within reason. Uh, Engagement enhancement here, creating compelling course descriptions that motivate learning. That's something that we're going to do in just a sec when we get to the explore. Developing clear success pathways for different student types. That's a little bit more about the UDL. Establishing supportive communication norms and expectations. That's kind of like what I was talking about with Kat, where the students feel comfortable enough to let the instructor know, let her know that something looks weird, something's not right. And then providing resources that address common student challenges. That's one I don't usually see too often. That seems like something maybe in Canvas you can put a link to how to use Canvas. Um, some resources. I guess that would kind of go in together with adding in resources to help the students succeed. Some key takeaways here. Integration creates coherence. Syllabi work best when all elements support a unified course goals and student success. It's kind of self-explanatory, but accessibility benefits everyone. Clear, inclusive language helps all students understand expectations and succeed. This one, in my mind, sticks out when I was doing my UDL certificate. It was the dip uh, in the curb, like on the corner of or not on the corner, but like when you're crossing the street, there's like a little bit of a dip. You might think, oh, this is only beneficial for somebody in a wheelchair, but think about people on bikes, think about any sort of other person that needs that dip so that they're not stepping off the curb. See if I can find that image, but that's reminds me of this accessibility benefiting everyone. AI enhances quality. AI assistants can improve syllabus clarity, inclusivity, and comprehensive coverage while maintaining the educator voice. You know, sometimes, most of the time, but always double check, always human in the loop. Never just take something that AI gives you and put it in without first reading it. And then students need guidance. Well-designed syllabi reduce confusion and anxiety while promoting engagement and learning. So that's kind of the main takeaway here, I would say. Reducing confusion and anxiety. Um, there's got a lot of nice resources here. A syllabus designer from AI for education with some prompts if you want to just do some simple prompting there. We're going to be a little bit more advanced on the next page. There's also some stuff here. Another one, syllabus design and enhanced course communication. Lots of good links there if you have the time to check them out. But for now, we need to move on to our Explore. So in this Explore, we're going to practice using AI to generate inclusive language, improving accessibility, all that kind of stuff that we just talked about on the last page. For this one, we need a syllabus. So if you want to follow along, go ahead and access your syllabus. It's pretty easy to find your syllabus now if you have the link to Simple Syllabus. I'm gonna put that into the chat. Um, I can type in a name and all of that person's syllabi come right up. Let's see if cats are on here. Here we go. You can change the term if you want. Um, That's a quick access to syllabus, and it's cptc.simplesyllabus.com. That's all you got to know. It's a pretty easy link to remember as well. We're going to use, this says chat or Claude, whatever one you like using, you can use. A current syllabus, any sort of course materials. So if you have those learning outcomes from 4.1 or the AI policy from 2.2, I tried to pick one that had both of those in it. And then let's see here, enhancement focus, specific areas you want to make more inclusive or accessible. We'll just follow the instruction down here for that. Choose syllabus sections that feel standard or institutional. These often have the most room for inclusive improvement. If you've already gone through and done the inclusive check, then maybe there's not going to be a lot of feedback for you to change, which is great. If it's not broke, don't fix it. But maybe if you put your syllabus in with these, they'll give you, like I said, some ideas of things that you can adjust. So we're just going to go ahead and jump right in. Actually, no, before we do that, I remembered that since we're talking about inclusive syllabus, once again, this is our Teaching and Learning Center LibGuide, the syllabus tab here. There's also a link to Simple Syllabus there. So if you just click this image, it'll open up our catalog. Little guide on how to use Simple Syllabus, but I think all of us pretty much know, except Rachel just left. So yeah, maybe she knows. There's a section on inclusive syllabus here. So, and then there is a rubric. And what I think I'm going to do, I'm gonna include this into what I'm working on. If ChatGPT will allow it. Actually, I might not do ChatGPT today. I'm gonna see if I can get into Copilot real quick. Just because I want to be able to put that document in there. So, what we're going to do, take your current course description and use this prompt, transform this course description to be more inclusive and welcoming to diverse learners. So this one here, what are we doing? Inclusive language generation. So I'm just going to copy this one. And we're going to see what we can get with just this prompt. All I have to do is check to let them know that I'm human. It's great. I am going to use a syllabus unless anybody wants to volunteer theirs for the live demo. I've prepared this composition 2 English 102 course, and I've got the course description right here. So I'm going to copy this one in. And actually, I think kind of goes along with the course description. Let me go ahead and make this visible here for everyone. Is the what is the course about? So I'm actually going to do both of those together. And then I want to see, just based on this prompt, what we can come up with. So that was a little bracket. I don't know if y'all saw that, but a little bracket, and then I copied the prompt first, and then I copied this into those brackets. And then I'm going to see, what is this? Smart, quick response, think deep. We'll just see what Smart does for Copilot. And wow, right away. Let's see. I think this type of thing might benefit from showing both together. So let's go ahead and see what this looks like. So course description continues to develop writing skills practice in English 101 with an emphasis on writing research and analytical essays. The class uses reading, lecture, discussion, and writing assignments to develop information literacy while exploring various genres of writing. The course description that AI came up with was, this course builds on the foundations of writing by strengthening skills in research, analysis, and persuasive communication. Okay. I like how it starts with this course as opposed to just starting with the verb, starting the sentence with the verb. Together, we will explore how writing can be used to express ideas, engage with diverse perspectives. There's that call out directly in the text, and make meaningful arguments across different genres. So yeah, here's it's talking about the same thing, genres of writing, but it's adding in that we will be looking at diverse perspectives, and also this word here, together. Let's work on this together. Through reading, discussion, lectures, and writing assignments, you'll develop information literacy and learn strategies for clear, effective communication. So similar, right? It looks like, I mean, it moves some stuff around, but the idea is the same, but I don't know. I prefer this one, the one that chat came up with. Um, I think it flows better, and it includes these considerations in there. Just with calling out these together and diverse perspectives. Let's look at the other one here. The course is about this class will be exploring the world of persuasion. Not only we're going to build. So, I like this says we'll be utilizing AI on discussion boards and creating formal papers. So, calling out AI use in what the course is about. This one here, I love the M dash in there. How writers shape ideas, respond to different viewpoints, and contribute to conversations in academic, professional, and everyday context. Oh, my co-pilot is M dash heavy. Uh, Writing is a skill that connects every career path to community role, showing the bigger picture. Why are we doing this? Here it says writing is an important aspect of any career, and becoming a strong writer will benefit you greatly in your future endeavors. So, okay, that's very similar there. Let's see, we'll use a variety of tools, including AI. Okay, so this one expanding it a little bit. Not just saying we're going to use AI, we're going to use tools. And one of those tools is AI. I'll probably have to sit with this, and investigate it carefully, but I can already see some improvements there. And let's see if we look at the prompt a little bit more carefully here, making it more engaging and motivating. I would say yes. I would say it did do that. And Kat, I just saw your hand, so just give me a sec. Inclusive of different backgrounds and experiences, clear about the value and relevance to the course, and welcoming while maintaining academic rigor. I think it did pretty good on all of those accounts. So, Kat, did you have a question?
Kind of. Just wanted to, before everybody started changing their course things on the syllabus, I think, and Derek had mentioned, um, if it's different on our syllabus than it is in the course catalog, there may be an issue.
Oh, okay. So yeah, let me explain real quick. The course description comes directly from the course catalog, so you cannot edit that in your simple syllabus. It's one of the things that we have that automatically pulls it. And so I think that you can change the what this course is about. So, you know, if you went through and you did this and you felt like this was a better course description, then you would it's the same. If I'm reading quickly, in California we have the common course, no changes once approved. You would still have to go through curriculum committee if you would want to make the changes to the course description, and then also the course learning outcomes. Those are pulled from the catalog. Um, and you would have to go through that process. Uh, we have a little bit of, freedom here to do, make our own what is the course is about. And so I would say if you can't change this, if you can't implement this course description, then, working where you can make the changes. So maybe adjusting the what is the course is about to include maybe some of the things that the course description is missing. Hope that answers the question. So, okay, let's go ahead and there's a second step to this one. Choose a policy or expectation section and ask, rewrite these course expectations using inclusive supportive language that encourages student success. So this one, no worries, Kelly. The students come first here at Clover Park. I'm going to put this in just as it is. It's going to be focusing here on growth mindset rather than fixed abilities, support available rather than just consequences, collaborative learning environments, and recognition of diverse learning approaches. For this one, I don't think, yeah, there's course policies. They've got these things. Let's go ahead and we'll just copy this whole section for the course policies. See what we can do, if there's anything we can do with that. We'll stop at college policies because those are things that we cannot adjust. So once again, I've pasted the main part there, and then I'm going to go in and paste over that. So let's see what this comes up with. And I can already tell you right now, I'm not going to have enough time to do the second and third activity. So it's a lot of similar things, except instead of focusing on inclusive language, this one here is diverse perspective integration. So similar idea. You post your examples in there. Choose an assignment description. You can put your assignment description in there. Um, this one, if you do it in the apply, there's like one big, like huge prompt where you can go in and do all the updates and try to do it all in one go. But for today, I don't want to spend too much more because it's almost it's the end of the quarter. So it's almost time for break. So okay, here let's look at these course policies and procedures. AI policy, I will say this is great that this is in here, but I think it needs a little bit more context. So maybe adding in something, we will thoughtfully explore how AI tools can support our learning and writing. These tools are meant to enhance, not replace your own ideas and voice. So Kat, would something like this, do you think the students would see that and be like, oh, okay, if I'm using an agentic browser to do my work, that's not really my own ideas and voice.
Like
Here
I
I
could read
lost.
it to them all day. I could speak it all day. So it literally has to be an assignment where we have to explore situations that would be considered unethical in order to,
Hmm.
fully understand, fully
Okay.
have that discussion. But yeah, I mean,
Well,
as far
maybe
as,
what if you had it here in the syllabus, and then, like I said, have those
yeah,
discussions at the
exactly.
assignment level.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay. And then what's Jeff saying lost your policy. Yeah. I don't think that pasted over well. I like the idea of using AI for the what is your course is about. It is an opportunity to expand upon the course script. Yeah, I think so, Derek. Okay, and then there was one more today. Together, we'll discuss responsible and creative ways to use AI, ensuring it helps grow as a writer and a thinker. Writing class, those are the ones that are hit the hardest, I feel, with AI because you want to teach them how to write, but they've got this thing that can just write everything for you. Um, but adding in something like this and then, continuously bringing it up through the quarter could be good. Grading scale, grades reflect progress and achievement in the course, but they are not a measure of your growth. Oh, I like that. That's that growth mindset. Writing is a skill developed through practice, feedback, and revision. The scale below shows how points translate into letter grades, but remember, every assignment is an opportunity to strengthen your skills, and support is available throughout the quarter. Sounds nice to me. As a student, like if I put my student hat on, it makes me feel better about, if I didn't get the A, obviously I will try to go for the A, but um, it's not a reflection of, what did it say here? It's only reflecting the progress and achievement, not the measure of the growth. Okay, attendance. Let's see here. Because this is a small collaborative class, your presence matters not only for your own learning, but also for the community we build together. So adding in community aspects. This is all looking pretty good. Let's see here. We have in-class work that can be made up. Oh, this is a small class and your attendance is important not just for you, but for your classmates because we have this learning community that we're building together. Yeah, this is all looking nice. Let's look at the late work real quick. Late work is the thing that happens. I get that. This is really you know, um, student language here. Sometimes life issues stand in the way of perfection. Thus, I've created a user-friendly late work policy. Most assignments can be turned in up to 2 weeks late. Life happens and learning is not always a straight path. To support you, most assignments can be split up to 2 weeks. Maybe a little bit more concise. So, um, I like it. Once again, I probably have to, look at it a little bit more carefully and see if it is exactly, my voice and what I want to say, but definitely gets you into a direction of, thinking about some things that maybe you wouldn't be able to think about on your own. So let's see here. And then they'll just ask how to just I'm gonna stop it there. Yeah, like I said, I don't wanna stay too long here because it's the last day of the quarter. So I just want to thank you all for coming and spending this time with everybody here on this Friday. And I hope you all have a wonderful break if I don't see you again. And we'll continue this course in the new year.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Ron.
Thanks, Jeff.
Hey, Ron, real quick.
Yes.
We already had 28 faculty members sign up for your
Excellent.
AI course. Sent out one email and boom, it was just like
The
everybody
AI
signed up.
Essentials?
Yep. So
Yeah, nice. Good.
So-
Thank you, David.
wondering how many actually have signed up. It's too bad they don't have a means on like an admin page for each college that we can click on as
Oh.
admins to see who signed
That's a
up
good
for
idea.
what without having to go
Oh.
through Alyssa. That you just
Yeah.
click
I
and-
don't even think I have
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, that's
access
what I
to
mean.
admin anymore. It's out of my hands.